Welcome, everyone. Before we get started on the presentation you're about to hear, I just want to go over a few small housekeeping items. You should be seeing them on the slide. We do recommend that you use Chrome. This is how the system works best. So if you're not on it already and you're having any issues, try switching over. We also recommend that you shut down any applications that you don't need to be running in the background for better performance and so you can concentrate on what you're hearing today. Use the Q&A button to ask questions of the speakers or to ask for help from our support team if you're having any technical issues. We will be answering questions after the presentations are done, but you don't have to wait until the end of the presentations to ask your question to submit it. So we do encourage you to submit your questions as you think of them. You can use the DISTRIBUTECH platform, that's where you're watching this right now, to network with other attendees as well as the speakers in this session. And so again, on that platform, we do encourage you to explore it at your leisure once this presentation has concluded or any time that's convenient for you. And again, you can use it to connect with our partners, attendees. This is your networking. And then very last, we are looking for feedback on our DISTRIBUTECH Plus series. So if you see a pop-up asking for your input, please just take a second and let us know what you think so we can improve our series going forward. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. Let's get started. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jen Runyon, and I'm a content director here at Clarion Energy, and I am delighted to welcome you to our session, Extending Data for Utilities, sponsored by ACS Power MEANSIDE. So let me introduce our presenters. Today we're going to hear from John Groders, who's Business Development Director at MEANSIDE, ACS. And we're going to hear from Giovanni Polizzi, who's Business Development Director as well at ACS MEANSIDE. And I'm going to turn it over to John now to begin.
All right, great. Thank you, Jen. And we'll just pull up the slide deck. Hope everybody's doing well today. I know that we are the last session of the day, so hopefully we can keep you entertained and keep you all awake. And certainly, as Jen said, ask questions, submit those through the Q&A. We'd love to make this interactive. We're going to definitely leave some time at the end to try to go through anything that you may have. So with that, we'll go ahead and get this started. So again, I'm John Groders. I'm with MEANSIDE ACS, and my colleague here is Giovanni Polizzi. We are going to be going through what we're calling expanding data for utilities today. So what we're going to accomplish today is we're going to do kind of a general overview of some of the trends, some of the reasons why utilities are looking to expand their data and leverage it further. It's certainly a hot topic in the industry right now. And so with that, though, we are going to definitely focus on a specific use case that is ongoing that we're doing with a utility in Europe right now. And it's already been going for over a year, and it's a successful use case on IT/OT integration where we are automatically collecting data and treating that data from several different field IEDs. So getting that that data from the field from a lot of disparate IEDs, and we'll go through those. And those IEDs, and I guess I should step back, and when I say IEDs, we're talking about intelligent electronic devices. So mostly microprocessor-based devices that are now very prevalent in the distribution system and transmission system that you can gather data from all parts of the system. So what we're going to be doing is showing how you can leverage that data and collect that data from a lot of different makes and models. And it's going to be done through our OneSide Operational Intelligence platform, which is an IoT based platform. And we're doing it showing how you can leverage that data and for monitoring, validation, storage, and editing. And we will take a deeper dive, or Giovanni will take a deeper dive as far as what that application looks like and some of the results and evolution of that project are. So first, just a quick introduction and just kind of some trends that kind of really drive some of these initiatives. So technology innovation is really accelerating changes in the utility business models, and that probably is no surprise to anybody joining this webinar today. they know that there's a lot of reasons for it. So obviously the increasing data collection, we're seeing just more economical priced sensors as well as IEDs and just different ways to collect data on your system, as well as we're really adding a lot of data points in the data gathering systems that we're already using. So with that increased data, we are seeing a few different drivers. One being they want to do more of a predictive asset management. So instead of just running assets to failure, including the actual devices themselves, we're using advanced algorithms, so machine learning as well as artificial intelligence, to really try to prioritize and understand when some of these assets might be approaching end of life. So really trying to focus on that as opposed to just doing some time-based asset management or run to failure. So that's a big trend, and obviously a big motivation for that is to decrease your OpEx budgets, to really try to prioritize and consolidate on the assets that need the most attention and when they need the attention. And all this data collection also is driving new business models. So utilities are constantly trying to provide more customer choice and more customer interaction, and increased data allows for that. Will open up the door for a lot more ways to interact and provide different programs and initiatives for customers. So that's a big trend, as well as obviously the proliferation of DERs, so distributed energy resources, are a big trend, and how can those open up new utilities, and having all those extended and exponentially growing DERs on the system, another data gathering point to really try to consolidate and understand where this data is used and how it can be leveraged. So moving on to the next slide. So what data management look like? What should it be? So in this just kind of four-step, very simplistic approach, what we're looking at is, first of all, you need to be able to integrate that data from several sources. In the next slide, we'll show how currently is data gathering has been done over a period of time in the utility industry, and it's a very serial approach where there's just far more efficient ways now of collecting that data. So the first part, integrating that data from several sources. But then the next is, how do you enrich, improve, and add value to that data? So, doing some of that pre-processing, organizing it, providing some context to that data, very important. And then you want to generate knowledge from that data. So that means start to create those models. So when we talk about machine learning, really it's about taking that data, learn from it, establish trends. And then when we talk about discover patterns, that way you can actually see when there is some anomalies, when there is something going away from what we typically would expect to see. That's really where a lot of that usefulness of the data can be seen. And then finally, certainly very important, how do you deploy and visualize those findings so that you can improve and force performance, enhance that flexibility, be able to optimize operations. So all of these, very simplistic approach, but that's a four-step process of what we feel, that data management should look like. So unfortunately, going to the next slide, this is what more times than not data management does look like currently in the utility industry. And again, it's most of this has been done over a lot of years. So, as new data streams happen, they're usually built towards specific use cases or specific business drivers. So for example, you have all those data sources there on the left. If it's field data, maybe it will go through a data logger to collect that data, or it could go straight to a historian. It really depends on what that approach is. But as you look, everything's very serial. It's got a defined path. The storage is done in multiple different databases throughout all over the utility system, which makes it hard to share that data between storage oftentimes, and it's hard to be able to compare data coming from different data sources. So certainly the having an enterprise service bus that is, intended to be that area where you can start to do some data sharing, but each process is still very, very unique and again, pretty serial to the business case or the use case for that data. And as we show here, and I'm sure familiar to most folks on the webinar today, a lot of it just is trying to bring that data out into a CSV or a spreadsheet file. There might be some specific tools that can be to analyze the data, but again, very siloed and very specific to the stream. And then visualization of the data, again, very specific, as well as notifications. And then finally, the administration required multiple administration streams. So what we're talking about when we talk about our OneSide operational intelligence platform is a much more streamlined approach of all of this. So this will be the focal point of what Giovanni is going to talk about on the specific use case today. But again, now you have all those data sources on the left, and those data sources can be coming from all points of the system, different systems. They can be ingested both as a live real-time streaming process, as well as we have ways of ingesting that data as a bulk or offline acquisition process. So really a lot of different ways to ingest that data. And then when we talk about processing or pre-processing, to be able to run, maybe look for certain thresholds or look for quality of data when it's coming in. And then that storage and contextualize, that's one location where all of this can be stored, one data model that can be leveraged from a lot of different stakeholders throughout the organization. And then to analyze or view it, certainly a key aspect to it. So you can then, in that same platform, run analytics as well as visualize and create formal reportings or notify. And again, we're looking in one holistic view of that data. So that allows for one administrator or one administration tool to be able to handle that data from ingestion all the way to analyzing and viewing and notifying of that data. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Giovanni, who is going to talk about the specific use case of where this is being leveraged. So take it away, Gio.
Thank you. Thank you, John. I hope everybody sees me. Okay. Thank you, John, for the explanation. Yeah, just to conclude on this, of course, the platform that we're going to present, so the use case that we're going to present is based on the data stored and managed in this tool. All the components you see here are administered from the same administration tool, so it makes it very easy for a team to basically have one single tool, one single training to access all this component, which are a typical component you find today in data analytics platforms. To follow on the next slide, this is the client we're going to talk about. So today we did this. We started this project more than a year ago in Spain. The client is Naturgy. Naturgy is one of the biggest distribution company in Spain. Definitely a multinational group. It's one of our great clients. Have been working with Naturgy for many years, and of course they rely on our expertise and our technology to even experiment. So this project started as pretty much like an R&D, and now is being deployed in the field and is giving the result that we're basically expected. So a large company that is really innovative, really changing the way they analyze and they deal with data in their network. And let me go down to the use case in particular. So Naturgy noticed that relatively inexpensive devices, which are the IED that my colleague John was talking about. So relatively inexpensive devices are actually generating high maintenance costs for the inspection, for the maintenance or the replacement, basically because they create unexpected failures, and an unexpected failure need people that go on site to inspect them even before understand if it's a failure or not. So imagine such a large network as Naturgy has in Spain, and this is becoming a great problem for them. So what is the way of making that maintenance or the inspection more streamlined. Of course, the problem that they had is that when we talk about ID, we talk about different manufacturers, and different manufacturers have their own flavors they give their own flavor to protocols, let's say, to interfaces. So it was becoming for them difficult to have to put those the maintenance process for those ID within a company-wide application, a company-wide system, and they were always tied to different manufacturers. So they said, okay, let's start to see how can we bring at least how can we start to monitor, inspect those devices by using one single platform. So they came to us with this problem, with this idea, and we gave them a solution. We started with, let's say, with our R&D project, and then we said, okay, let's move on into larger projects. So two things that you'll see here: OneSide Intelligence, of course, the platform where we do data collection, we do storage, we do analysis, we do visualization, notification of events. And then we have another piece which is connected to OneSide Intelligence, which is actually part of the architecture that we're seeing at the beginning. It's called OneSide Platform Things, and the fact that it's called Things, of course, is tied to the fact that this is more a single single container application. So this is the IoT piece of the platform. So as we do through this platform, we can, through this OneSide thing, we actually connect directly to the IDs. We can read the protocols, we can manage the interface and configure them. We do firmware download. We can change the setting modification. IDs have this. So OneSide thing, there are many OneSide things, and there's OneSide Intelligence. We will see in the next slide. OneSide things gives us the possibility to have a protocol manager there. So we basically open up the communication with IED devices. But we can also configure. We can also give to Naturgy one single user interface to do the configuration of all these devices. We basically create an abstraction layer where they can interact directly with the IDs without the complexity of having to deal with specific manufacturer-tied application. Once we move on into, this is a simplified architecture. Of course, there are many different layers of security, which kind of simplified here. So on the left side, you see the IDs, they are connected, and as you see, they're connected to OneSide things. OneSide thing is what we call the digital asset manager, the DAM, basically, but we do digital asset remote management. We do the administration of the ID. We can operate the ID remotely. We do alarming events. We do the administration. The bubble component that you see over there is basically our protocol manager, is the one that gives the interface to the protocols, and that allows us also to configure specific communication with very specific protocols. Of course, then we have a number of firewalls in between the OT and IT network, and then the data flows into OneSide Intelligence. The user will access directly the data through the IT network, right? The entire application, OneSide Intelligence, is hosted in Azure cloud, and so it's also very light from the company point of view to manage that part of application. So what's the ID remote management? In more details, what are we doing over there? We're doing read and write on those devices. We're doing the protocol management. We're doing the supervision of liveliness of connectivity. One of the problems was basically that when you lose connectivity with the ID, they didn't know if actually was a problem with the ID or was just a connectivity problem. So the OneSide platform and OneSide things basically work together to make sure that there is a supervision of the connectivity of the liveliness of this. We give a browser-based user interface for comms and debugging of the ID. Of course, to implement the cybersecurity directly in the device asset management tool, as well as in the platform. And then we of course, as I said before, there are many OneSide things. There's OneSide Intelligence. So we have to manage all the software that is deployed in all these DAMs element. Right, and again, we have another element, a centralized element that allows us to to manage all the software that is being deployed. So every time there is no possibility that the software in the different OneSide thing is actually operated by an unauthorized access. We give role-based access management, very important when you give access directly to the ID in the field. We can define all the roles, so it's not only one pass-off to do everything in that particular device, but we can actually, by giving roles in user, we can actually create sectors of access and of operability into those devices. And then we are, of course, we give support to execute scripts and commands, not to one, but for example, to a group of IEDs that are deployed in the field. So as you can see, a number of very powerful tools respect of what's the traditional way of dealing with ID, which is again, bound to manufacturer, bound to a local presence, or an application in the back office that is again, it's a manufacturer specific application. The results and the roadmap. Of course, the first thing that we did was to select the applicable devices. Not all ID makes sense from a project point of view. So basically, to start and to maximize the ROI maximize the return of investment, a number of devices were chosen depending according to the required effort to implement and maintain remote configuration. This was the first thing to, let's say, let's start with a quick win. Let's start immediately with a fast return on the activity that was planned, and it was actually quite successful in that say. We have to say that each manufacturer has specific characterization. So one of the barriers that we found at the beginning was, of course, that we gave for granted that if a manufacturer was having a particular protocol, then there would be a standard protocol. Well, it was not. Even within the same protocol, each one had particular, say, flavors to that particular configuration. The other thing is that we extend the remote monitoring configuration to all selected ID. That was basically increase the visibility to the IDs in the network. Once we found a category of ID, then we were able to extend this to the entire network. We started from a small section, of course, in a controlled environment. They say, okay, this works, so let's expand to the rest. There is a cost-benefit analysis that has been done, and could be done also. So basically, to analyze and confirm if the cost and the benefit of implementing this new way to remotely manage. Of course, you see the phrase at the bottom. Looking at IDs in this way also requires a change in the entire way in which maintenance of IDs is run in the company. So of course, there's a business change, there's a procurement, and also the way that engagement with OEMs in the company must be changed. Finally, I would say the asset performance. Of course, we can leverage the existing data logs in ID. That's very important because there's a lot of data already that this ID are producing, but it's basically not captured at the moment in many companies. We see this here in the US. It's not captured, and this gives the way of capturing that information, analyzing the transient effect, analyzing all the logs, to also understand in the future. We're not saying that this has been done already, but to understand in the future even how the health index of the electronics can be detected. And here, the use case is finished. I would just like to understand to explain who the company is, who we are. So MEANSIDE is part of a larger group. A group is called Indra. Indra is a multinational company based in Madrid, but with offices around the world and with large operations. In particular, MEANSIDE represents the IT branch of Indra, and with different fields: energy and industries, one, financial services, telecom and media, and the public sector and health. In the US, the energy and industry sector is called MEANSIDE SES, and this is what we are presenting here today to you. We have a large expertise. This is why working with clients like Naturgy, but also with other clients like Iberdrola, for example, or Enel group, some of the more, biggest international groups in the utility, we have developed a number of solutions for the utility industry. All our suites are called OneSide Utilities, and we have different different components from the intelligence part to distribution control to customer information systems, metering, and then some OneSide plants, which is and OneSide market, which is specific for the generation of power and the trading of energy in the market. A final conclusion, of course, we work daily with our clients, with our partners, and we try to enable the transition to the new energy context. We provide innovative technology, and we apply a lot of data analytics to our technology. You can see there are some of our customers. We have more than 200 utilities here in the USA. You see some of the names over there, but we have also many multinational groups here. So with our utility client, with our utility solution, we serve more than 200 million final customers. So please, now is the time for Q&A. If some answers, some questions have arrived, we are ready to answer them on the platform.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, super insightful presentation, very, very useful. And we do have some audience questions, so I'm going to jump right into those. Okay, so the first one says, what types of IEDs have been involved in the project? So I'm thinking this might be for Giovanni. And are there others that are going to be included? So what did you pick?
Yeah, I can start it, and then certainly Gio, you can add on. But I do know that Naturgy had several different IEDs that they have looked at, and they look at each IED, and they want to make sure that there's a good business case for them to have that part of this implementation. So some of the ones they started with were they wanted to take all the monitoring devices for their substation batteries, bring all of that, consolidate that. They certainly have protection and control devices included in that, as well as substation RTUs. And I do know that on their roadmap, they want to bring in more data from data concentrators from their different metering clusters. So in their network, they are bringing back metering data to data concentrators through Powerline Carrier. So there's a tremendous amount of data, and there will be a lot of value adding those IEDs to the overall project.
Correct. Yeah. Nothing to add, John.
Nothing to add. Okay, great.
All right, great.
Okay, audience, again, this is your opportunity to throw out your questions if you have any. I do have a second one here from the audience, though. Right now, let's see, it says, when did the project with Naturgy start, and what is your expected timeline?
Yeah,
you
so
can take that, John. Yeah, you can take that.
Yeah, I think Gio mentioned it actually started in 2019, and there's no defined end date. As long as they continue to find value, continue to optimize their operations, they're going to keep adding. Basically, the timeline is they're just going to keep looking at different IEDs, different vendors, of different manufacturers, and continue to add those to the project. So there is no defined end date at this point, as long as they continue to find business cases and value.
Yeah, totally. Basically, they have so much, but they have so much already deployed in the network. But with the increase of distributed energy generation, of course, they need more automation in the field. So it's going to be more devices, and the new devices are going to come in. Naturgy has done a choice. Rather than saying, I decide which standard of communication with the devices I want, they actually want to keep it that open. They don't want to be tied to any particular manufacturer in that sense. So they say, if I decide some standard, then some manufacturer will probably jump in and say, and get that standard in their devices. But they actually want to always keep it open, to have always the choice, and to always be able to embrace new technology that is available in the field. So in this sense, they decided they gave a step back and say, let's keep it as open as possible towards the devices out there in the field.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, last question that I have so far. Has Naturgy seen an improvement in their operational efficiency so far with this implementation?
They have although as I said, this started as a R&D and it was quite successful from the beginning. So now they are defining a number of KPIs actually to compare what was done before and what is done now. As I was explaining in the presentation, it was difficult before to streamline the maintenance of these devices within standard company procedure because of the legacy that they were system they had to use to maintain those. So ideally, now that they have a new standard, a new procedure, they can actually start to measure KPI, and they will use the OneSide Intelligence platform to define those KPIs in terms of rate of failure, for example, in terms of times to repair, in terms of all the typical KPIs that are managed in a maintenance routine of standard equipment that is out there in the field.
Awesome. Okay, and we did have another question come in while you were speaking, Gio, and that question says, is operational intelligence available in North America?
It is already available, yes. We actually presenting already to a number of customers. We have a demo environment already, a number of use cases implemented. For example, asset management. We are already using sample data that some of our customers have kindly given us, so it's very much localized in the USA with data to do transformer analysis, transformer load analysis, for example, or to do visualize data in our SCADA. Bear in mind that, of course, in the US, MEANSIDE has got a lot of deployed SCADA systems, so this has got a native interface with our SCADA system, and so it's an immediate use from our customer. We can immediately capture the data coming from the field and show it in OneSide Intelligence.
Yeah, I think just the one thing to add to that, we're definitely, being that we deal with a lot of SCADA and ADMS customers, there's just a need where they want to consolidate the data, not just from SCADA, but then also bring in metering data, do comparisons, bring in weather data, do forecasting, by being able to handle all those different data sources in a single platform. It really just opens up those use cases to be very, almost endless. So really that's where we are with a lot of discussions with our utilities in North America. And yeah, we look forward to coming back and continuing to share, some additional use cases, additional success stories. And if anybody's interested, certainly reach out to us, and we'd love to talk to anyone about their data analytics needs.
Very cool. Well, thanks you guys so much. We have no more audience questions, so I am going to say thank you on behalf of DISTRIBUTECH Plus and Clarion Events. Thanks to John and Giovanni. Great presentation. Thanks, audience, for your attention and for those great questions. And thank you to ACS MEANSIDE for your sponsorship. So that concludes our DISTRIBUTECH Plus March series on digitalization and data analytics. Our next virtual event is going to take place May 26th and 27th. And the focus there is distribution automation and outage management. Now, just a reminder, distribution automation is like the core of DISTRIBUTECH. So we really hope you'll join us. I also want to remind everybody of our live and in-person event. We cannot wait to start giving live events again. That's going to take place next year, January 26th through 28th in Dallas, Texas. What a great place to talk about the future of electricity. Please save the date, and we hope to see you there. For now, take care and bye, everybody.